Oh, I think I will have to unmute from my end, maybe. My apologies. Could you try now?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Salam alaikum. Thank you, Joanne, for this biography. But a biography like that doesn't say the essential point, which is that my real training, formation, was my own psychoanalysis, which I followed for many years. But that doesn't appear in a biography, usually. Well, it's a great pleasure being with you in Pakistan tonight. And I would like first to express my gratitude to Joan Roussel and my thanks to the Pakistan Psychoanalytic Circle for having organized this evening, which is part of a working dynamic oriented by Lacanian psychoanalysis. Thank you also to the participants who brainstormed questions for this meeting. I am aware that my answers to your questions will undoubtedly often be too brief, given the short time we have, but you will have certainly other opportunities to return to them in a cartel if you are part of one or in another meeting. Let me first recall that Lacan invented the cartel in 1964, that means more than 60 years ago, to make the study of psychoanalysis come alive. The school he then created was a response to the crisis of analytical institutions, a school that Lacan wanted to have at its basis the cartels and the pass, in order to maintain an awakening, that is to say, a proximity with the real, while reducing imaginary effects as much as possible. Instead of the vertical hierarchy traditional in analytic institutions, as you know, the school and the cartel are based on a horizontal or circular system, circular dynamic. It is a flexible tool that can be used to read a psychoanalytical text, study a concept, pursue clinical or theoretical research, establish a link between psychoanalysis and another field, or even to prepare an event, like a congress or a symposium, something like that. If Lacan established a direct link between the cartel and the cure, the analytic treatment, it is first because both create a knot between speech and the body. Movement of bodies to the place where the cartel takes place as much as possible, and speaking in one's own name. These are two characteristics of a cartel. Although I know that nowadays it's quite difficult sometimes to meet in person, but it's a pity. And it's really important to try to do it each time it's possible, because it changes something when the body is at stake. Like clinical psychoanalysis, the cartel is a speaking experience that, contrary to a study group, is not subjugated to pre-established knowledge. It implies working with limitations of time and number of participants. Anyone can work in a cartel, which must have at least 3 people, 5 at most, 4 being the right balance, proposed Lacan. Once members, we call cartelisants, the cartelisants, have connected and decided upon a theme to work on together, they invite somebody to serve as the plus one, who proposed Lacan. If it is any, must be someone. At this point, the cartel is knotted. At the beginning, each member of the cartel, including the plus one, announces their specific subject of work. This is a singular way each one articulates their question with the cartel's theme. What is at stake, it seems to me, is often the articulation between reading Freud or Lacan or someone else and reading one's own symptom. That's a quite frequent effect of a cartel. That's what I wanted to propose you as an introduction. So now I'm ready to listen and answer your questions.
Thank you, Frank. So our first question comes from Ayman Imran. I did receive a message from Imran saying that she would be a few minutes late. She got caught up in something. Is she here? Oh, yes, I see you. Okay. I'm asking you to unmute if you'd like to read your question.
Hello. Can you
Hello.
hear me?
Yes.
All right. So my question is, let me just quickly. Okay, yes. So my question is, I would like to understand the role of the plus one. Do they only relay questions or can they share opinions too? I wonder if offering opinions might risk halting the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. I've chosen with Joanne to start with your question because it's quite a difficult point and it's an important one to try to clarify what is the plus one. Why is there a plus one? When we speak of the plus one of a cartel, it is not simply a matter of one member plus a few others. It is not a matter of a simple addition, but of what Lacan calls a function. The expression plus one, says Lacan, comes from the fact that even if there are only three of you, that makes four. That counts four. The plus one makes this formula exist, which testifies the presence of another dimension between the subjects, between the members, whether we call it a void or the big other. The so-called plus one is a presence which has the value of a nomination, plus one. And this nomination gives a specific name to this member, and that makes a whole, HOLAE, in the group. It has an estimate place, that is to say that it is both outside the system and inside it. The plus one is a member of the cartel who participates to the discussions. But the cartel members are not going to learn from a supposedly knowledgeable master. They will teach themselves from their own questions and those of others, supported in their elaborations by the plus one. That's one of his functions. However, the plus one is not mute. He has his own topic of work, and he may intervene as the other cartel members do, and also by providing some references or quotations if necessary. In fact, he tries to serve as a provocative agent. He comes, says Miller, with question marks, and he has to be a poor leader, adds Miller, a leader that relaunches everyone's elaborations. You can't avoid a leader, whatever the group is, but the leader can be a dictator, or sometimes, or the leader may be a poor leader, as Miller calls it. He also has a function of interpreting the group. And he also is the one who is in charge of the selection, the discussion, and the outcome to be reserved for each one's work. If the plus one considers that one paper, one text should be published somewhere, it could support the member to do so, for example, or to present this paper in another meeting, etc. The +1 function, another aspect of his functions, which are many, as you understand, is also to register the cartel on the school's website with each member's name and each topic of work. That realizes a direct link to the school through writing. That's something which has its importance for each member to get his name somewhere connected to the school, which doesn't mean that the school will ask you anything or will thank you or whatever. No, but you are on the website of the school, registered as a cartel member. Moreover, this function of +1 must be permuted. There is no class of +1s in order to avoid identifying a person with this function. It is very striking to note that this structure, X +1, prefigures the one that Lacan was to develop precisely 10 years later with his Borromean knot. So I don't know if you're aware of the Borromean knot, probably you heard about it. I would like just to remind you that the Borromean knot is a representation of the knotting of the three dimensions of imaginary, symbolic, and real. That's what I wanted to answer to your question. A.M.S. Imran, thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Ruqayya Abdul Kader.
Yes. Can you hear me? Okay. My question is that what is the end product of a cartel? Is it a person understanding of a topic or a concept, or is it a synthesis of various readings?
Thank you for your question. By the way, are you yourself in a cartel?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, I'm in.
Yes. Okay. So there is no standard for the final result. The goal of a cartel is for each member to obtain a piece of knowledge that will be different for each member and that may indeed concern them as a subject. The cartel is not the place of the analysis as such, but it is an analytical tool. If the member is in analysis, the piece of knowledge obtained may resonate with the cartelism's treatment. It may also contribute to representation in the cartel or even in an external meeting, or be the subject of a written publication. So it's very open. There is no typical final result, although Lacan insisted on the fact that the members should write down something. So this process of writing is important, even if it's a very short writing, a few notes or a text more elaborated, why not? But try to write down something. So this passage from speech to writing.
Thank you. Our next question is from Sarush Shazad.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum. My question tonight was what mechanisms are present, if any, within the psychoanalytic cartel to address personal or ideological bias? And how might one's political or cultural positions unconsciously hinder engagement with ethically complex or threatening concepts?
Thank you for your question. So I was a bit puzzled because I was wondering what bias you had in mind. Maybe could you tell us more about it?
Yeah, sure. I feel like a lot of, especially personally, I feel like a lot of my own thinking, it stemmed from religion. And also, I am a female, but I'm working on a subject matter that is more looking into the male psyche of things. So I feel like I constantly feel like the things that I am picking up on, or the things that I am paying more attention to, are those because of who I am. Like, can I be neutral in this? And do I have to be neutral when I'm addressing things or picking up on them, if that makes sense?
Okay, thank you. Uh, well, anyway, the very form and functioning of the cartel address certain bias. First, that knowledge could only come from a master whom one has just to listen to and identify with. On the contrary, the cartel has an horizontal structure based on the particular knowledge of each member. Members are at the same level. Their particular experience as a clinician, a nurse, a social worker, a teacher, etc. That is what is important to speak, to take the floor from your own position as a female, as a male, as a nurse, as a teacher, etc., as a student, whatever. What is at stake is that each member be present with their own qualities. Miller makes it clear. Each one has qualities. This logic requires that the members work from their insignia, he said, with their experience from which they contribute to addressing the theme of the cartel and their personal topic of work. And each member is invited by the plus one to take the floor, to ask their question, to intervene based on their unique knowledge, different from that of the other members. It is only fair to note, as you do, that bias comes from the unconscious. Indeed, starting with what Lacan calls the "I don't want to know anything about it." He also called passion for ignorance, which inhabits each speaking being and which opposes the desire to know. By the way, I actually, a few days ago, discovered an English proverb I ignored, which says, ignorance is bliss. I don't know if it's something very common, but well, that's it. That's the point. Ignorance is always there. And we have to deal with our passion for ignorance. And beside, to try to put forward our desire for knowledge. So that's what I can answer. But excuse me, but I'm not sure I understood all your questions. You mentioned religion, did you?
Sorry, yes, I did.
You did? What did you mean? What kind of bias do you think that could introduce?
I feel like religion, for me anyway, religion is a framework that helps decide what I think is, for example, morally or ethically correct or not, or what I consider um, good or bad, like even things like that. So I often feel like there is information that maybe I relate to more than other things, but that is not to say that the other things are less important. So how do I keep going when I don't know?
Yes. Yeah, yeah, that's very important. Thank you for this clarification. Yes, of course, we have to deal with our basic training or education, religious or not, and with the signifiers and the imperatives we have in mind. And of course, that is, I would say, that is the material for analysis itself, of course. And that is, of course, something which counts when you take the floor in a cartel as well. You're talking from your position, which is specific. because of your religion, because of your education, because of you coming from a big city or from the countryside or whatever. This always counts, certainly. So thank you for this clarification. So, Jad, we can go to the next question.
We have a really interesting question from Anita Hassan, or is it Hussein? Anita?
Yes, hello. It's Anita Hassan.
Thank you.
Assalamualaikum.
Hello, Mr. Rollier. It's a pleasure to have you with us. So the question I would like to ask is, since members bring their unconscious with them in the cartel, is it possible that transference occurs between them, or one person's unconscious influence the other person in any way? If this happens negatively, how it can be dealt with? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. To bring forth this dimension of transference, very important. So it is desirable that the transference takes place towards the school and not towards another member of the cartel or towards the plus one. This transference towards the school is a transference work, a transference towards the knowledge provided by Freud, Lacan, Miller, and others who express themselves within the school. Thanks to this transference, the cartel becomes an analytical tool against the passion for ignorance I mentioned before. If the transference takes place towards another member of the cartel, it would be advisable to speak to an analyst about it. That would be my answer. That may happen, of course. What about the influence of other members? Yes, certainly, in the sense that the cartel is a place of discussion. What a member states can be discussed, approved, criticized, and developed. If a member feels hurt by what another member says, it is up to the plus one to interpret what is happening here again. And it would be useful to discuss this in one's own analysis, of course, if it's possible. A cartel doesn't have a predetermined path. It is a site of possible surprises. And this is what makes it a living experience and not a school assignment. Make way for the unexpected, for chance, for surprise, for astonishment, for discovery. The cartel is at the opposite of formatted, measurable, miserable, I don't know, it's an equivoque, miserable or measurable, and evaluable knowledge.
Thank you so much for your response.
You're welcome.
Our next question is from Saida Mahak Fatima.
Where are you? Is she here?
I don't see that she's here. Shall I read the question?
Please do so, if she's not here.
What role do cartels play in Lacanian psychoanalysis, particularly in terms of collective knowledge, production, and the transmission of psychoanalytic theory?
Okay, so it's a pity she's not here, but yes, she brings forth an important point, the question of transmission, let's say. So Lacan invented and promoted the cartel as the basic organ of his school. That's how he called it. And it is indeed largely from the work of the cartels that the knowledge of the school is developed. The school represents a hole in knowledge, H-O, and not a whole. A hole that the work of the cartels and their productions come to fill. Today, in the area of instantaneous exchanges via the internet and the belief in unlimited knowledge, accessible at any time, the cartel serves as a counterpoint to this functioning. It is a separate place where everyone can take the time to work on their question at their own pace and in their own name while sharing their ideas with others. It is an alternative to a quest for knowledge conducted in isolation. It's something I think everyone has an experience of that, being on his laptop or telephone, mobile phone, and try to get more and more informations from internet, whatever it is, ChatGPT or other. So it is an alternative to that. The cartel opens a door that allows us to escape the solitary and limitless jouissance to which capitalistic discourse fiercely pushes. The first effect of the cartel is to introduce the dimension of speech, which is a dimension which tends to disappear with the capitalistic discourse imperatives. If you are on a social media, or speech has not much room. For a subject who wants to know, the cartel is a place where the desire to know can come into play. It is a place where something can indeed be transmitted. But please remember that from an analytical point of view, what is transmitted is not what is taught. It is something that stands between the lines. It is a remainder. That's something we have to think about, each one of us. What has been transmitted to us from the teaching of such or such master, let's say, or teacher? Is it something factual? Is it something objective? Is it a history, a list of names, etc.? Or is it something else? Is it something which subjectively marked your body and your mind? Well, that's just a remark about this idea of transmission. So, John, now I think it's up to you to ask a question.
Thank you. My question is, can you speak about the cartel in relation to institutions? And as a sub-question, the relation of the cartel with the school?
Thank you for your question. I'm not sure we'll answer thoroughly to your questions, which are quite difficult. But anyway, the cartel is an institution in itself. That's my first point. It is a new form of social bond that introduces the dimension of speech and allows one not to always remain isolated, especially if the cartel meets in person, because the conviviality of the meetings is an essential element of this working time. Therefore, the cartel members don't remain isolated, but without falling into the illusion of finding an ideal master or remaining stuck in a group that doesn't establish limits. In a cartel, not everything is possible. Knowledge can be deepened, but what is obtained remains fragmentary. These are bits of knowledge. A cartel fails to exhaust its working theme, and the dissolution of the group, the unknotting of the group is written from the start. The cartel takes into account the dimension of the impossible, and that's also why it is a psychoanalytic tool. Now, your second part of your question, or your second question, regarding its relationship to the school, the cartel, alongside the path and the supervision of clinical practice, constitutes one of the three pillars of the school. If we conceive the school as a whole in knowledge, as Lacan says, the school expects knowledge that cartels can construct and provide in order to fill this hole. Thus, wherever a cartel operates, the school is alive and enlightened by its products. On the other hand, registering the cartel in the NLS cartel directory, which is actually the +1 job, with your name and your topic of work, realizes a direct link to the school. This process of registration, which includes the school as other, realizes some sort of commitment which promotes the cartel's work. That's my experience, let's say. In my opinion, the cartel can be regarded as a password for, according to Lacan, the password, I quote him, is not that by which group members recognize themselves, but that which allows the constitution of the group. End of quotation. And the cartel is indeed an original mean of forming a group, which also opens the door to a work transference towards the school, as I mentioned before, to the benefit of psychoanalytic knowledge. Working in a cartel often leads the cartelisant to write for a school's event, or for a congress blog, or a magazine, with the support of the +1. Being the school basic organ, as Lacan introduced it, the cartel is vital to the school very existence. When Lacan created the cartel, he proposed that the school's work rely mainly on the cartels. And it is still the case, although, of course, lectures of members and seminars have also their importance, but the cartels remain the basic source of knowledge for the school. But you could ask me why the school? Why the school based on the cartels? Because Lacan conceived it as a place, conceived the school as a place of refuge, even an operational base against the discontents of civilization, he said, in the preamble to the Founding Act. A place of refuge. That rings a bell for me. I don't know if it does for you, but we as psychoanalysts, but also sometimes as teachers or psychologists, we have a very specific place in society. And we can feel we are not understood by others. It's difficult for others to understand the way we work. So this social isolation can be, in a way, treated by the cartel, by the school, which is a place of refuge. These are my answers, Joanne.
Well received, thank you. Our next question comes from M. Sharif. Moaz, are you here?
He's not here.
I don't believe so. It's hard. We've got a crowd here. So I'm scrolling through. No.
Doesn't answer.
So this question, I believe, was based off of an early iteration of the poster, which had an erroneous quotation. So I'll read the question. Quotation, quote, to work hard and harder, end quote. There should be a question mark at the end or exclamation mark because in psychoanalysis there is no defined boundary. Everything's open to interpretation. We define our own boundaries. And why should we bound ourselves to social norms even if they sound as real as what's written in the poster? This is, I suppose, more of a commentary.
Yes, so this is a comment on the poster we had, which mentioned this quotation to work hard and harder, which apparently is not a quotation. Actually, it's not in the founding act of the school. I don't know where it comes from. But anyway, certainly a cartel is made to get to work, but it shouldn't serve the superego, which pushes for ever more work. And this formula, which doesn't appear in the founding act, and which I wasn't familiar with, sounds like, for me, like an imperative of resource. And I prefer the quote from the founding act that Joan and I have chosen, an elaboration sustained in a small group. As I said earlier, the cartel has its own limits that are part of its functioning, and each member does according to his desire and possibilities. Nothing is required of him or her. That's very important because it's not an exam. It's not a university device. It's something different. And of course, a result is expected, but the result is basically and mainly subjective. And if you can give an account through a writing, for example, it's wonderful. But if you can't, well, it's like that. It's fine like that. Everyone does according to their own possibilities and desire, of course. So that's why I wanted to answer to Muaz Sharif.
The next question is from Abdullah Mirza.
Yes. Thank you for this. You've talked a little bit about how the cartel is a little different has a different structure than traditional groups and study groups and so on, and that's in all these ways intentional. But so my question is then, how are the dangers different? Because of course you've talked about the biases and the problems associated with other sort of similar structures of 3 to 4 people getting together. So what are the dangers associated with the cartel work? And in other words, what's a cartel gone wrong? Or maybe there's more than one way. Yeah.
Okay, good evening, Abdullah. Maybe we can say that we have an experience of cartel together.
Yes.
Yes. So I don't know if you're talking about this cartel or more generally.
Oh, no.
No?
Not necessarily. Generally.
Okay. So anyway, your question is important, of course. One risk is that the cartel member addresses a master who supposedly has the knowledge, and that the plus one responds accordingly, offering advice and prompting identification, as in a psychotherapy, let's say. It is not uncommon for a crisis to arise in a cartel precisely when the plus one considers himself, let me find my paper, an academic with established knowledge, as Miller puts it. This university discourse never fails to create a bottleneck. Another risk would be to address the plus one as an analyst, supposed to know, or for the latter, to fall into this trap and interpret the cartel members. That shouldn't be the case, of course. Conversely, the mechanism that allows everyone to move forward, to acquire a little bit of knowledge, is to address the knowledge supposed to the cartel as an organ of the school, supposed to the cartel, supposed to the school. What is desirable is that the plus one be in the hysterical discourse. The one who asks questions, that's what the hysteric does, asking questions all the time. But can it be so all the time? Surely not, but at least a little sometimes. So now you're asking also, what is a cartel gone wrong? So a cartel which goes wrong, in my view, is often a cartel which is not one. No plus one to guarantee the knotting of the cartel, then it's a knotting after 1 or 2 years. No subject of work specific to each member. No respect for the limits of the cartel, number of members, duration. No declaration to the school, that is to say, to another who represents an orientation of work in an analytical perspective. So that's my idea of a cartel going wrong. There are probably other settings possible, of course. But that's the one which appears to me more frequent.
Thank you. Our next two questions come from Abdullah Ali. Abdullah.
Where is Abdullah?
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
How are you, Dr. Rail? Now, my first question is, can the failure of a cartel, which can be lack of output, silence, disbandment, be read as productive or even analytic itself, rather than as a simple problem of the organization?
Well,
And my
I answer to your first question first,
okay.
which will be quite brief. Yes, of course. What you call failure, which is a term which is also open to discussion, because indeed, can one escape a form of failure in relation to an ideal? So failure can and even must be interpreted analytically. It is one of the functions of the plus one. So there is no general answer. Of course, it depends upon the specific situation. So then please go on with your second question.
So my second question was, can a cartel function as a space of rupture or subjective restitution for its members? And if so, how is this navigated?
Yes, that's a very important point. Thank you for raising this point. Even if a cartel is not the site of analytical treatment, subjective effects can occur for members, even if it's not a priori the goal of a cartel. These effects can sometimes come as a surprise and themselves represent a gain in knowledge. If the cartel member is in analysis, this will be the place for them to discuss them. But subjective effects that occur during cartel work can also be an opportunity to formulate a request for analysis outside the cartel. This is my answer.
Thank you, Dr. Frank.
Our next question is from Alicia Mirza.
Hello. My question is, what advice would you give to someone joining a cartel for the first time?
Very good question as well. Are you already in a cartel or not?
Yes, I am.
You are. Is it your first cartel?
Yes, it's my first cartel.
Okay. So, first, I would say one more time, try to meet in presence, at least sometimes, so that your body is part of the experience. Deciding for the first time to work in a cartel is like kicking in a door and entering a space different from the one organized by the master's discourse and by the university. This space is located opposite the master's discourse, which orders us to work from an already existing knowledge. A S1, a master signifier, for example, I don't know, efficiency, performance, speed, etc., which, as Jacques-Alain says, doesn't allow us to testify to what we have done if we are oriented by a master signifier. The cartel also disrupts our habits by operating in reverse of the academic university discourse, which places pre-established knowledge in the driver's seat, with subjects having no choice but to step back behind the discourse formatted according to the demands of the university. The lecture is the paradigm, opposing one-on-one enunciation or subjecting it to the whim of the teacher. It must please the professor and fit within the norm to be validated, perhaps even by simple multiple choice questions or evaluation questionnaires. Fortunately, the cartels are not subject to evaluation questionnaires. It is up to each member to make their own subjective assessment. So I could add something. If you enter a cartel for the first time, try to be open to surprises.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I believe our final question is from Munis Azad. Munis, are you here?
Hello.
I want to make a note, if I may, before you speak, Munis. Munis and I were in a cartel, I think 3 years ago. It may have been the first attempt at a cartel in Pakistan. Sorry, Munis, go ahead.
I can't see. I can't see you, Muniz. Azad, where are you?
Hello.
Oh, yes, Muniz. Okay.
Yeah. Just wanted to know what advice would you give to someone who feels like everything seems pointless, including participating in cartels?
So I was a bit embarrassed by your question because I don't know what you mean exactly. Maybe could you tell us a bit more?
I don't know. Sometimes it's so when I listen to psychoanalysts like you or Duane or other people, they seem to be very motivated about their work, at least, and it seems very inspiring, and there's a curiosity of what is motivating you to work so hard, but it's very difficult to relate to that. I think there's this lack of motivation to do anything. I don't know, it seems like nothing good can come out of anything, so why work hard?
Yes. So what I will answer is that what you described, this lack of desire, of this inhibition, I don't know how to call it. Well, it looks like a symptom, which is quite a frequent symptom, actually. And if you suffer from this lack of desire, I would advise you to go to an analyst and try to work on that point, because it's not something easy to cope with if you're working. I don't know if you work as a psychologist or whatever. The absence of desire is something difficult to cope with for you and for the people you're working with. So that can be treated by analysis, certainly. That's my answer.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So that is the list of our questions. I do note with interest that I believe we have another half an hour. Frank, it's up to you if you'd like to maybe open it up or if you'd like to conclude a bit early at 9 p.m.
No. It's okay for me. We can take up this time to get more questions and discuss.
Oh, I saw a hand raised very quickly. So maybe if we could say our name and maybe where we're connecting from, if that's okay. Sulana?
Hi, I'm Shulagna. I'm in Kolkata, and thank you so much for letting me participate in this meeting because I am learning a lot for the first time about cartels. And I think this experiential kind of the insightful comments from everyone involved is very helpful in a way that just reading about something in a text doesn't capture. So, my question is uh, in the case of a cartelizant who is not yet practicing, how can the reference to clinical experience, in this case, the experience of undergoing analysis rather than practicing as an analyst, be utilized in the cartel work and final output while maintaining sufficient distance from their subjective position and without divulging personal details?
Thank you. I'm not sure I understood completely your question. What you say is that you have no clinical practice. That's it?
Yes. So I'm saying that for someone, for a cartelizant who is undergoing analysis but
Yes.
is not practicing as an analyst, in the as part of the work of their cartel, if they want to refer to their experience of undergoing analysis, how does that uh, relation with the clinic affect their work as part of the cartel or their output?
Yes, well, I think it's of course possible to refer to your own experience of psychoanalysis, and it may resonate with the clinic other members have in their practice or not. It depends, but that can be discussed. But of course, you're not going to expose in details your own analysis in a cartel, but you can highlight one point, of course. One point while trying to theorize it, put some theory around it. For example, I don't know, regarding an identification or regarding an interpretation, the way an interpretation may occur, or the effect of an interpretation, or whatever, regarding a symptom, of course. But of course, it's quite delicate because it's important to remain discreet about your own symptom and your own analysis. But never mind, you can, of course, pick up one point and try to share it with others, of course. I don't know if I answer your question.
Yes, thank you.
But you say you have no clinical practice. Are you a student or what is your job?
I am undergoing analysis. I'm not, and the experience of undergoing analysis kind of helped me understand the theory a little bit better rather than when I was just studying it as part of a university curriculum. So that's how I kind of ended up with this question.
Yeah, but what do you study?
I'm not studying anymore. I work as an editor right now.
An editor. Okay, okay, very good. Okay. What is your name again, please?
Shulagna.
Shulagda. Okay, because I can't see your face on the screen, but I can see your name. Okay, you're coming from which city?
It's Kolkata in India.
Kolkata. Okay, okay, okay. Excellent. Namaskar.
Namaskar.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you so much.
I see the next hand that was raised was Safa, Fatima.
Yes, hello. I'm sorry, I have a really bad flu, so I won't be able to open my video. Hello, doctor. It's really nice to actually put a face to your name. I'm speaking from Karachi, Pakistan. And my question, I did not have time to formulate it properly, but my question to you would be, I'm a recently practicing therapist. And while I don't exactly practice psychoanalysis, I practice REBT and trauma-informed therapy. My question to you would be, because I'm very new to all of this cartel, and I don't belong to any cartel yet. My question to you would be, what would you advise someone who's recently started practicing and would want to know more and get into a cartel?
Uh, I don't understand really what is your question because you have no experience of a cartel, but you would like to have one. Maybe that's it.
Yes, my question to you would be, I would like some advice as to how I should proceed into, because I want to get into a cartel and I'm a newly graduated and newly practicing therapist. So
Yes.
what advice would you give me so that I'm able to join a cartel, and why you think it's necessary to join one?
It's not necessary to join one. It's a question of desire. There is no necessity.
I would like to rephrase it. Why would it be helpful for me to join a cartel rather than just continue practicing individually under a supervisor?
It is something different. It is something different. It depends. It would be interesting for you to join a cartel if you have a question that can be addressed to a cartel. It's not just being part of a cartel like that. I'm not sure it could be of some use. But if you have, for example, the desire to have another lightning, let's say, about your clinical practice, you may share clinical cases in a cartel with other members and discuss them. Or you may be interested in one aspect of the theory or one aspect of your practice, and you could propose that theme to be worked on in a cartel. And for that, I would advise you to contact Joan Roussel and the Pakistan Psychoanalytic Circle, who could maybe help you to get in touch with other people interested by the theme you would like to work on. But you have to decide upon a theme to work on. That's the first point. But I think it would be certainly interesting to have, beside your therapeutic practice, another experience, certainly. But it's up to you. It's not necessary.
No, I understand. Thank you very much. I just didn't know where to start the process, but I do understand now. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
If I may add, Safa, it'd be great. We have a cartel form on www.psychoanalysispakistan.com. And whenever we receive some information put into this form, we try our best, a few of us, to link people into potential cartels and to maybe help them seek out if they're interested in working closely with the school, seek out a plus one. And we've had some success. I think we have 6 or 7 cartels that have some sort of a link to the school now. So things are moving. So I know that there's a couple people already waiting to join more cartels. So there's other people like you that you could we could link you up with them. So if you just contact me or go to the website. Cover, Javed.
Uh, Hello, thank you. I could not, open my camera due to internet instability. So, hello, Dr. Frank.
Hello, what is your name?
Khabar.
Okay. I try to read your name on the screen, but I can't. But anyway, okay, please go ahead.
Okay, so I have 2 questions. First is, what if the plus one cannot make him or herself uh, free from the role of master or didactor, as you mentioned, for example, in previous in answer of previous question, that the role of plus one is not of that of master, the university degree, as Miller puts it. And my
So yes, so your question is what happens if he can't do it? That's it?
yes.
There is no universal answer. Let's say it depends upon the cartel members. Are they satisfied with that or not, or is it unbearable, or whatever? Some cartels function with a plus one who is maybe more master than a poor leader. The problem is that cartel members may like it, may be satisfied with it, because it's more relaxing. Maybe they have less to say, less to work on. So it depends. Others may be unsatisfied with it and prefer to quit the cartel. That does happen sometimes. So, it's not yes or no, it's not black or white. A plus one is supposed to try to be, not to be a master and be a poor leader on a hysterical position, as I said. But, well, it's not guaranteed. We hope that does happen, sometimes at least, but it's not always the case. So you don't have a
Yes.
pure plus one, you know. There is no purity of plus one. It's always mixed, of course.
Yes, thank you. And my second question is also related to it. For example, what do you think that homogeneity or heterogeneity of cartels participant background, for example? For example, if the cartels participants are from 2 or 3 different cultures, how this heterogeneity may influence the progress of cartel or meaning making of something that is coming out of it?
Yes, but well, my idea that heterogeneity is something great, and precisely it may bring something new and interesting, but of course it may create some difficulties. But the cartel is precisely there to talk about these difficulties, to exchange about this diversity, about this heterogeneity. Because if you just get people from the same culture, same backgrounds, with the same ideas to work together, the risk is that it remains a bit flat, I think it's more lively and interesting if we get this heterogeneity. That's my idea. What do you think about it?
I think yeah, you're right, but sometimes maybe if the plus one is from uh, takes the role of master and maybe that was in my understanding, not that I have experienced till now, but maybe the different cultural backgrounds and even different educational backgrounds maybe, and maybe at the different levels of life, for example adulthood, adolescent, early adulthood, late adulthood, how these age differences may also influence the dynamics of cartel. Maybe it was in my head, so I asked it.
Yes, it was a good question, and you're right that it does influence, of course, the cartel. But it is the same question that we have if you are a therapist or a psychoanalyst, when you meet a patient, you don't meet someone like you meet someone completely different. Another gender, another social background, another maybe sometimes another religion, I don't know. So we have to face the difference, and psychoanalysis is made also for that, to try to get us accept the other's jouissance, let's say.
Mm.
And the other's jouissance is always different from ours. And that's the basis of racism, of hatred, many times. But if you are in analysis, if you have been working on your own hatred, maybe you can overcome that dimension and be able to face the difference precisely. The difference and the other's results, which is sometimes striking or unbearable or incredible. But that we do experience not only in cartels, but in the clinic, of course.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Frank.
You're welcome.
Okay, we have Rabia Faruqi.
So where is Rabia Faruqi? Oh, yes.
I'm here.
Hello.
Yes. Hi, Dr. Rollier. So you have already mentioned it's always better to present in person so that the body has the experience. But I want to ask how exactly being present in person or online may differ and affect the work of a member and the cartel as a whole, and any advice in case or any things that should be kept in mind if meeting in person is not quite possible for one of the members at least.
No, it will work even if it's not possible for you to be present in the cartel. The
Yes.
cartel may work, but it creates something different if you bring your body in the cartel. It's always the same. It's not the same if you meet someone for real or if you get this person on the phone only. What is the difference? The difference is that the presence creates an effect on your body immediately. That's one thing. The other dimension is that what I called in my paper the conviviality. I don't know if it's a word understandable in English. Yes, I think so. Conviviality, which means that we are not only going to talk seriously about everything, but we may, I don't know, have a drink. We may chat, have something which make a social link alive, which of course involves the body and speech, but both. And this dimension makes also alive the drive, because when we are facing our laptop, okay, we have the dimension of the gaze in a way, but it's not really the gaze, it's an image. We are facing images. It's different if I face an image than if I face you face to face or gaze to gaze. And the dimension of the hearing is different as well. And the effect one person may have on me is something I can experience only in presence. So someone else is talking, no?
Natasha, I think I just muted it. I'm reminded, if I may, of my first venture to my analyst. It was this long 2 hour ride to another city and then sitting in the waiting room, waiting. There's a whole experience preceding the clinic that involves your body as well. Okay, we have a question from Saeed Mohammed Amar Jafri.
Hi, it's an absolute honor, Rollier, to be here. Okay, so I'm talking from Karachi. Now, my question is that as someone who has neither undergone analysis nor sort of engaged in any clinical practice, and I'm not particularly interested in the practice of psychoanalysis either, but I'm rather interested in Lacan as a theorist. And I wonder, like, is the orientation of a cartel supposed to be exclusively towards that which is clinical? Or sort of can it also serve as exclusively or sort of inclusively as a theoretical endeavor?
So I didn't get your point exactly. You're interested in theory more than in practice, okay? And then?
I mean, when working with a cartel, right, is the orientation supposed to be towards the clinical practice more than that of the theory? Like how is that supposed to work?
Oh, no, no. It depends upon the theme of the cartel, which has been chosen by the members. You can have, of course, a purely theoretical theme of the cartel, but it's difficult when you are an analyst or when you're interested in psychoanalysis. You do not talk about theory without clinical references, because clinic enlightens the theory. If you discuss, I don't know, whatever, if you discuss about the concept of identification or the concept of delusion, whatever, if you talk about it only from a theoretical point of view, I don't think it's really meaningful. It always refers to a clinic. For example, if you decide to talk about madness, there are so many definitions of madness, but each definition refers to a certain clinic. The definition given by Freud, given by Jung, given by Lacan, given by yourself if you're a clinician, etc., etc. But the basis is clinical. So the topic of the cartel may be purely theoretical, absolutely, but I cannot imagine that what will be discussed will be only theory. It can be, of course, theory. You can oppose one theory to another theory, but behind the theory, there is a practice, no?
Can I follow up on that?
Okay.
I mean, if we're working with people who have worked before us, right? If we're working with, for example, Lacan or Miller, what they write themselves is already sort of based on theory, right? So if we ourselves do not engage, it's based itself on practice, right? So if we ourselves do not engage with practice specifically, when we sort of run off with what they've done, uh, is that fine? What about that?
I don't follow you. I'm sorry. I don't follow you exactly.
So what I'm getting at is that if we're studying these people as sort of theorists, right? Um, what they've written is already based on their clinical practice, is it not?
Yes. So
So I mean the responsibility of engaging with the clinical side of it, does it befall on the cartelistans as well, or can they simply sort of stand on the shoulder of giants, as it were?
I don't know what to answer. I think I answered what I could. I cannot imagine a cartel dealing only with theory without any clinical references. But that doesn't mean that the members of the cartel have to be clinicians. We have cartels with no clinicians. We do have cartels with sometimes teachers, for example, or theater actors, or social workers, or I don't know. So everyone may have a different practice, not necessarily a clinical one. And you will take the floor from your own experience, as I mentioned before. So, but it's difficult to imagine a cartel who would never mention the clinical side, but not necessarily each member. It might be one, two members, and others will not mention anything clinic. Okay? You don't have to be necessarily a clinician to be a member of a cartel.
Yeah, that answers it.
Okay?
Thank you. Very interesting question. I see a number of hands up, and in the interest of time, we have 9 minutes left. I hope I won't offend anybody if I suggest that those who frequent the circle a little more maybe get priority in their questions. I hope that's okay. I'd really like to give Manal a chance, and then Anita, and I do see Moaz and and somebody else, Romesa, but I'm just thinking of the time and really wanting to get those who return regularly and who are involved in the cartels some preference, if that's okay. Is it okay? Manal's question was written in the chat as, does the cartel necessarily have to dissolve? It's a question of the temporary nature of the cartel.
To dissolve. To be unknotted, you mean? That's what it means?
Dissolve.
Dissolve. Yes, otherwise it's not a cartel. So why not? You can have a group, a working group, or a group of friends, a group of colleagues who will continue to meet for years. That does happen. Why not? But a cartel has to precisely stop at one moment after 1 or 2 years, but it may be before 1 year, it may be after 1 year and a half, etc. It depends upon what the members and the plus one decide. Sometimes it's enough after 1 year. But it has to, because, as I said, the cartel has to cope with the dimension of the impossible. You cannot answer all questions. And it's better to get a bit of knowledge than to stop the cartel and try again and fail again, Beckett said, in another cartel. I mean that you always have a question, your own subjective question in mind, and you get a bit of knowledge with one cartel, then you will join another cartel, maybe on another theme, and you will still have your question in mind, and you will get another bit of knowledge with other people, and thanks to other people, and thanks to another plus one. If you continue always with the same people, the risk, I could have mentioned that, the risk is that appears one or several leaders, because it's always like that in a big group. There are those who take the floor very easily, who are not inhibited at all, who are disinhibited, and there are those who are a bit shy or inhibited and who will not take the floor, who will be shy to expose something and afraid to be judged, etc., etc. So that's the task of the plus one, precisely to try to give the floor to each one. But which is quite a difficult task, but the risk, if you continue for years, is that everyone takes a specific position. The one who asks questions, the one who never says anything, etc., etc. So to avoid this imaginary dimension, which would make you think precisely that one is very shy or one is really speaking too much, etc., etc. To avoid that, it's better to stop at one moment, which is, of course, not satisfactory. You may feel frustration, some frustration, but that's it. And we have to deal with that frustration and try again elsewhere with other people.
Thank you. I do see 3 questions, and I want to apologize to 2 of you that it doesn't look like we'll be able to get to the questions. But if we're really uh, fortunate, maybe we'll see the return of Frank Rollier again in some future event, or of course, we all have the internet, so we know how to try and contact one another. I want to give the last question, if I may, to Anita, who's been an active in the circle for quite some time. Anita.
Thank you so much, Duane, for giving me this chance. I am very curious about considering the significance of language in the Lacanian psychoanalysis and its association with the unconscious, how producing work in a non-primary language in the cartels might create the hindrance.
Create what? Sorry. Could you repeat could you repeat the last part of your question, please?
So I want to ask how producing work in a non-primary language might create the hindrance, because majority of the people in Pakistan have Urdu as their primary language, and I'm sure the major part of the unconscious is formed in Urdu. So how does that work?
Well, I don't know how does that work. What I know is that sometimes, even here in France, we do have analysants who come from another culture with another mother tongue than French, for example, English or Russian or other languages, Bulgarian in my experience, etc. So that doesn't prevent to do an analysis. And I think that doesn't prevent to work in a cartel and get some effects of it. But what that means that sometimes you have to refer to your basic language or your mother language, if it's not the language you use in the cartel. If you speak English in the cartel and your mother tongue is Urdu or Punjabi or whatever, you may refer sometimes to a signifier in your mother tongue and try to say something about it. It's a difficulty, but it's not an impossibility. Otherwise, it could be impossible to have an analysis with a foreigner, let's say. What could I add? I could add that even if we speak the same language, even if we come from the same mother tongue, each one of us has its own language, which has to be translated in a way. And translation, as you know, is never pure. I said the plus one is not pure, but the language is never pure as well. Signifier, le mot n'est pas la chose. The word is not the thing. The signifier doesn't refer explicitly to one thing. It refers to different things. There is an equivocal dimension of language, and this equivocal dimension occurs even if you speak the same language, even, of course, when you speak the same mother tongue. So that's my answer. Thank you for your question. It is an important theme. You could work on that in a cartel, actually. Could be very interesting.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure
Bahut
to
shukriya,
answer
bahut
questions.
shukriya, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you so much,
Shukran,
Frank,
yes.
Thank you, Dr. Frank.
for orienting us today, and helping us in our cartel work. Hopefully, many of us who are working in cartels will perhaps go back to our cartels a bit refreshed. Um, Anybody who's here for the first time, please check out www.psychoanalysispakistan.com for ongoing activities, to look up some of the cartel documents that we have on there. And I look forward to the next one. Thank you again, Frank. Baat shukriya.
Shukran. Thank you to you.
Good evening.
Good evening.